So if you're looking to stand out, this colorway will definitely do that for you. It's a bright orange and olive green, not orange and black like a lot of the online pictures will make them look. And you can see you have this really interesting stripy pattern on the upper as well as on the sole plate. However, the pattern on the sole plate, unlike the 17 plus variations of all the Adidas models, is not actually a wearable finish. That pattern is underneath the plastic, so nothing's actually going to wear away, which is really, really nice. Are they good looking? Obviously, that's going to be a matter of opinion. I'm not one to wear a lot of flashy shoes, but I actually really like the way these look overall. I'd be curious to hear your opinions though, but I was trying to figure out whether or not these were tiger stripes or something else, because if you look at the Nemesis as part of the Lone Hunter pack, those are much clearer tiger stripes. So I did a little bit of research, and I think that these are the stripes, or the pattern at least, from a poisonous dart frog. And upon doing that research, I actually found out that poisonous dart frogs are only poisonous because of the insects that they eat in the wild. If you find a poisonous dart frog at the zoo, generally they don't feed them those same insects, so it turns out that the frogs don't end up being poisonous because of the change in diet, which I thought was really interesting, but completely not relevant to this video whatsoever. What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new Lone Hunter pack colorway of the Adidas X 17.1. Super unique colorway. We'll take a closer detailed look in today's video, but I also want to go over tech specs, performance features, the way they fit and feel on feet, as well as why the X 17.1 is so popular amongst professional players. Because as I've talked about many times on the channel, if you regularly watch, I'm not a huge fan of these. They're not bad by any means, but they're definitely not my favorite, and I much prefer the X 17 Plus rather than the X 17.1. So if you want to learn about any of that, stick around, watch the entire video. And if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $200 retail price. For those wanting to know, they come in a box and they come with a string bag. The one thing that you don't really pick up on in the pictures is the extra dots that they put within the pattern. So you can see they get kind of smaller towards the outside edges and then bigger towards the middle. It's like a really light brown, almost sand color. And then you do have the orange and green laces, but the orange is kind of a different shade. It doesn't actually match the upper. The Adidas logo is white, same with the X, NSG, and TechFit branding here on the medial side. All of this exposed TechFit material is that olive green with a black detail as well. And then obviously the pattern kind of continues onto the sole plate with translucent black stud tips. Overall, again, I think it's actually a pretty cool looking shoe, but I'd be really curious to hear what your opinions are down below in the comments. Before we get into specifics on tech specs, I want to talk about why so many pros choose to wear the X 17.1 over the X 17 Plus, because as you guys know, I personally prefer the X 17 Plus, and there are plenty of pro players wearing that model as well. However, I would say amongst Adidas endorsed athletes, I think the X 17.1 is not only more popular than the 17 Plus, it's actually their most popular top-end model that pros are wearing right now, which is very interesting. So I think there's three main reasons why a lot of guys opt for the 17.1 over the 17 Plus. The first reason is because it doesn't have a lace cover, and that's simply a matter of personal preference. I don't think there's anything detrimental to the performance because of the lace cover or without the lace cover between the two shoes. It's just a matter of preference, really. The second reason is because this shoe has a deeper lacing system than what you'll find on the 17 Plus with its lace cover system, where basically there's only 3 lacing positions running through the middle, so it's relatively shallow in terms of how much of the shoe you can actually tighten. It's very short, I should say, where this has 5 total lacing positions on either side. So the lacing is much deeper in the shoe, which means you can technically tighten them more consistently throughout the entire foot, which I imagine some players would definitely prefer. And then the third main reason is you have to consider that what a lot of these big name pro players are wearing is not necessarily the exact same shoe that you can go buy in the sports store, despite how it may look. A lot of people don't realize that there is actually a different synthetic material between the 17.1 and the X 17 Plus, where I think the X 17 Plus upper, it's thinner, it's softer, it's just nicer quality in general. So I wouldn't be surprised, even if they look the same, that a lot of these big name pro players are getting a different synthetic upper, possibly even some of the older synthetics we used to see on the F50 Adizero models made into X 17.1. So it looks like the current shoe, but isn't necessarily exactly the same as what we can actually buy. So if you're asking why so many pros choose to wear the X 17.1 over the 17 Plus, if I had to guess, I think those would be the 3 main reasons. Just so you have a better idea of what these are all about, let's run through all the tech specs. So the upper on this shoe is listed as a Tech Fit upper, which you can see it's listed here on the medial side. Not very specific because it doesn't really describe exactly what's going on, because technically the upper on the X17.1 is just called a Tech Fit upper as well, even though they're two entirely different things. So the material is a synthetic for pretty much the entirety of the upper. The only part that isn't synthetic is going to be this elasticated, what I call a true Tech Fit material across the top where it's slightly exposed, allowing for a little bit of stretch, making it easier to put these on and take them off. And then obviously it extends across the back as well, although there's really no added structure here. It's just there for the sake of filling in that part of the upper. As far as the synthetic material itself is concerned, it's thin, but it's definitely not mercurial vapor thin, or even as thin as a lot of barefoot shoes that we've seen from the Adidas brand in the past. If anything, I would actually say this is on the thicker side for thin synthetics, if that makes any sense. It doesn't feel particularly premium, although not cheap in my opinion either, and it's just not one of my personal favorite uppers. I also don't like how they put the seam right here. This is something that just seems like lazy design to me. We've had so many of these one-piece uppers from synthetic F50 Adizeros in the past where they move the seam in a spot either at the very back or right around here where it's completely out of the way, but instead they put a fairly clunky seam that does feel fairly hard to the touch. It's not super noticeable on foot, I will admit that, in one of the most high contact areas on your foot. So that's something that I'll never really understand about this particular shoe. You technically do have a seam like that on the X17 Plus as well, although because the design and the material of the upper is different, it's definitely not as noticeable and definitely not a hard spot on the upper like it is on the 17.1. So that's one thing that I really do not like about these, the seam and just the type of synthetic in general. I think for $200, you have better options in terms of quality of synthetic that's out there. As far as the lacing system is concerned, it runs right down the middle. It's a one-piece construction to the upper, as you can see, which is nice because there's no overlapping materials here. However, I really don't like how they attach the laces to the upper. I think this shoe would have really benefited from a dual lace hole setup. It would have just created for a lot less bulk across the top of your foot. Instead, what they've opted to do is use these little nylon straps, creating little loops, and they're not full straps that go all the way into the base of the sole as you might expect. It's literally just sewn in right about here, so you can feel right underneath it. There's a lump of where that extra material is. Then you have a lump on top of that, which creates the loop, which the laces run through. And because the laces are running through with the nylon strap as well, you have all these little lumps at the lacing positions, which again, it's not super noticeable on the ball, but I just don't like how it looks. I don't necessarily love how it feels. And it's, to me, just not the best way of executing what is supposed to be a fairly minimal, thin, lightweight, barefoot feel from a soccer cleat. So that's something that I just really take issue with the X17.1. As far as the cut is concerned, I would personally consider this to be a low cut shoe. It has a little bit of a raised piece here at the front, not noticeable at all, and then it has the S-curve heel, which is basically just an exaggerated design for the sake of looks. Very comfortable, great lockdown in the heel, but I definitely would not consider these to be mid-cut by any means at all. The heel liner is a nice synthetic suede with a decent amount of padding. Again, heel lockdown is excellent with this particular model. Give you guys a quick look at the insole, which is fully removable. You can see it's a synthetic suede liner on top. Single layer of black foam, nothing too fancy there whatsoever. And then as far as the sole plate and stud pattern is concerned, it is a sprint frame construction with the one-piece external heel counter, all made from a plastic material. The ribs running through the middle for added stiffness, some good flexibility through the forefoot, and it's their FG-AG stud pattern, this one specific to the X line, but it's pretty much the exact same layout across the entire Adidas brand. The performance really doesn't vary from line to line, but it is nice that you can wear these on firm natural grass as well as artificial grass playing surfaces. So if you play on both natural and artificial surfaces and you only want to buy one pair of shoes, technically any of the modern stuff from Adidas will provide that for you without having to worry about durability or really safety issues for that matter. Being that this is marketed and viewed as a speed boot, you'd expect two major characteristics out of it. A barefoot feel, which we established that these aren't overly thin, and a super lightweight feel both in hand as well as on feet. And really, they're not super light. In a size 9 US, these guys weigh in at 7.6 ounces, which is by no means heavy, but if we're comparing it to other shoes at the same price point in the same category, like the Nike Mercurial Vapor 11, which I would say is this shoe's main competitor, while those fit a lot different, while the stud pattern is a lot different and are definitely a lot thinner, not to mention a much tighter fitting shoe, those weigh in at about 6 ounces versus the 7.6 of this particular model. So really, they're in the same category, they're marketed the same way, but they're two entirely different shoes in terms of fit, feel, and overall experience. And if you want to compare it to the X17 Plus, those are going to be about a ½ ounce lighter than the 17.1, which is interesting because it seems like they are so similar. They have the exact same base, but for whatever reason, the X17 Plus is also lighter. So not to say that these are bad, not to say that these are heavy, but it really has to be exactly what you're looking for, because it's hard to compare it to other shoes on the market in the same category. So as you can see, I swapped out the stock orange laces, which is the wrong shade of orange to match the upper, for some bright orange reflective SR4U replacement laces, which match the upper pretty much perfectly, and it just makes it look that much better in my opinion. If you're interested in a pair of SR4U laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen, as well as a link down below in the description of this video. So if you're interested in a pair, be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet, the fit and comfort of the X17.1 is really, really good. There's not too much to break in here. The upper obviously will soften up a little bit as you wear them in, but for the most part, the heel lockdown is excellent, no slippage whatsoever. The overall wrap around your foot, while it's not as tight fitting as a Mercurial Vapor, it still fits quite well. There's not really any extra dead space on the inside of the shoe, which is good considering that this is a one-piece upper, and that often can be an issue for a lot of different models. Again, that seam in the middle right here that I'm not too crazy about, you don't necessarily feel when you're wearing the shoe. You'll notice it slightly on the ball if you hit it exactly in the right spot, but for the most part, on feet, the shoes are very, very comfortable. There's not too much to complain about. As far as width is concerned, it's a snug fitting shoe, but definitely not overly tight. So as long as you don't have super wide feet, these should fit most people without any issues at all. And as far as stretching is concerned, because it's something that a lot of people always ask about, they're gonna stretch a little bit, but not a ton. Again, this seam right here in the midfoot, forefoot is not going to stretch. So if you need them to stretch in that specific area, it's just not gonna happen. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. Just to be 100% clear, I do not think the X17.1 is a bad shoe by any means. The reason why I'm not a huge fan is simply because when I'm spending the money on a top-end product, there has to be that one thing about it that I really like or that is particularly unique about that shoe, something you can only get from that particular model. And I look at the X17.1 and wear them on my feet, there's nothing about the fit, there's nothing about the touch, there's nothing about the quality, there's nothing about the stud pattern, there's nothing about the comfort level that stands out to me as a best of the best in comparison to anything else out there, especially other shoes in the same category, including Adidas's own X17 Plus Pure Speed. Given the option, I much prefer the Pure Speed if we're sticking within the X line, and if I'm after something thin and light in general, I think there are better options out there. However, if you really like the look of the shoe and you do like the way they fit and feel on feet, you're probably gonna have a very positive experience, because as an overall performer, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this shoe. It is perfectly capable and actually really, really good. It just, for me, isn't what I would want from this style of shoe. Anyways, guys, that is it for my review of the X17.1 in the Lone Hunter Pack colorway. Again, if you're interested in a pair for yourself, it is the first link down below in the description. Be sure to go ahead and check that out. If you enjoyed the video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. As always, if you have any questions regarding these shoes, leave them down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.